It's 1981, and a snot-nosed teenager shows up at a local hotspot, the Roxford Street Illegal Street Races. About 200 cars are there. SS Chevelles, Mazda RX-3s, Camaros, Firebirds, and a Candy Apple Red 420 Cobra Jet Mustang owned by George Boscovich. Realizing at that moment that my little 80 horsepower Isuzu was no match for even the slowest of contenders, I became a spectator. What was I gonna do? About a half an hour into it, we started hearing shouts of cops, 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 go! What happened? I'll tell you right after this message from my sponsor. Hey guys, I have a new sponsor. It's FanHome. So about a year ago, I was contacted by a company that was creating a replica of my movie Skyline, the GTR. They asked me if I had any pictures, and I said, oh yes, I do. What do you need? We'd like to get those pictures. Okay, so I sent them everything. And when I learned that this car was going to be produced in 1/8 scale, I was super excited. Usually I only collect 1/18 scale cars, they're about this big. This car is about this big. At that scale, every detail is going to show. Even as a kid of 8 years old, I was already building models, starting with cars, and I got into airplanes, and now warships. The manufacturer was kind enough to send me the completed prototype. I was so impressed with the finished product. I immediately subscribed for myself. I didn't care if I get one free or whatever, I'm going to pay for it. The quality is amazing. It's made mostly of metal. Even the wheels are made from metal. They faithfully replicated the tiniest little details, things like the veil side, turbo, oil fill cap, the carbon Kevlar airbox from Group N, and the Nismo titanium strut tower bar, the massive StopTech brakes calipers, the aftermarket gauges that we put in the car. You can read the instrument cluster. All of the lights work, even the underglow from the movie. All the external lights work as they do in the real car. It even makes engine sounds. To get yours, you need to go to this website and sign up now. Don't wait. The first run is already sold out, but they just announced that they're going to take reservations for the second run. Don't wait. If you miss it, you're never going to get another chance. Every month, they're going to send the next stage delivered to your door with the instructions and everything, and every month, you'll get a package. So stop what you're doing and reserve your allocation now. Do it now, or you're going to miss out. Okay, I'm back. What happened? What happened was the CHP had sealed off the 2 access points and brought in car haulers. They were huge. They started impounding every car on the spot. No questions, no answers. 20 years later, art imitated life when Universal launched the Fast and Furious franchise. Based around illegal street racing across the world and inspired by an article in Vibe magazine by Ken Lee back in May 1998, Universal wanted to bring this scene to the big screen. It wasn't a new idea, really. There were movies like Two Lane Blacktop, American Graffiti, Dazed and Confused, and several others in Japan and in the United States. It had already been done, but the concept of racing goes back, I would think, to the days when emperors ruled Rome. Who knows? Maybe gladiators drag raced their chariots for pink slips in Julius Caesar's time. I don't know. Before these intersection clowns became insta-famous, there once lived a group of people who could actually drive and builders who chose to actually test the performance of their cars by challenging other drivers to a simple drag race using time slips. Wow. Drag racing of cars started to take off around 1948, the year that Hot Rod magazine launched. By the 1960s, drag strips were popping up all over the United States, including right here in Southern California. There were drag strips all over the place. I remember there was one in Paradise, Mesa, Ramona, Colton, Fontana, Riverside, San Gabriel. There was one down here, Santa Ana, San Fernando, Goleta, Santa Marita, Inyo Kern, Long Beach, Orange County, Saugus. By the 1970s, there was a huge group of racers who chose Japanese cars for their platform. They were doing Datsun 510s, Datsun Zs, Toyota Corollas, Celicas, Mazda RX-2s, RX-3s, even the odd R100 pickups. And of course, some German cars got in a VW Beetles, Carbon gears, and the odd notchback. In the late 70s and through the 1980s, street racing got bigger everywhere, it seemed. That's another story that I'll say for another video, but by the mid to late 1990s, the street races started to go legit. Sanctioned bodies like the Battle of the Imports popped up and were drawing hundreds of cars. There's a guy named Frank Choi. He founded a racing series called Battle of the Imports. And they ran their races at places like Atco in New Jersey and at tracks here in Southern California and Northern California. IDRC kicked off in 1998. They were very serious about running a very professional style event, and they did a very, very good job. In fact, they were arguably the gold standard back then. They really did it good. But somewhere in this mix, Super Street Magazine bought the NYRA name from founder Gene Wan, who was running races in Central California. When I took the helm at NYRA in 1998, we had nothing but a name and a logo and nothing else. I was hired by the publisher of Super Street, a guy named Howard Lim. He recruited me from Ibach Springs, where I was the marketing director working for a guy named Gary Peak. This guy had serious anger issues. I love the company, I hated the guy. His anger issues got so bad that the company sent him to anger management therapy. And so when Howard asked me if I want to change jobs, I said, let's go. Out the next morning. My first duty was building a team. I first picked a guy by the name of Bobby Cross. He was an experienced race director. Next, I hired a race programs manager, Mike McClellan. He was my old manager from NGK Spark Plugs. Why Mike? Because Mike's family ran a drag racing facility for decades in Louisiana. His father was Dave McClellan, the voice of the NHRA for nearly 50 years. Unlike some of the other import drag racing series, every contestant will follow the rules to the T. There would be no favoritism, bribes, any of that kind of stuff. To ensure this, our tech team needed to be above reproach. I brought in a guy by the name Paul Brandler. You can look him up. Then we brought tech inspectors. Phil Lewis was the top guy, supported by Neil Chin and Neil's brother Gene Chin, and every car would be inspected from top to bottom, not just for safety equipment, but for technical disallowed modifications. For example, in certain classes, your engine could only be a certain displacement and you can't go over that. So we had the tool to test your true displacement, and we caught a lot of people cheating. We checked your fuel mix. That too, we also regulate tire sizes and turbo sizes. My wife, Jenner, was sitting there and she had a nice smile and everything, so nobody got pissy with her, right? So my wife was basically the breaking ties. And she was also in charge of race headquarters and the hospitality suite, so everybody was pretty much well behaved. And it was working really well. Then our staff got together on the second season to put the rules together. We also invited many people to give their opinions and suggestions. We brought in current drag teams to a conference at NYRA HQ in the Peterson Publishing Building on Wilshire Boulevard. Most of the racers were serious and giving good suggestions. A couple of teams like the Bergenholtz team just wanted the rules built around their cars. The goal of building the rules was so that we could accommodate most of the pro imports that were competing at the time. And we didn't forget the street cars. We had 6 different classes just for street cars. We wanted everybody, we were going to take everybody, grassroots, pros, everybody. At our peak, we had at least 11 events every year at places like Palmdale, Phoenix, Seattle, San Antonio, Budds Creek, Maryland, West Palm Beach, Las Vegas, and 2 events at Englishtown and 1 at Maple Grove, Pennsylvania. Our events also had a car show. Running the car show was done by Ricky Chu, who was an editor for Super Street Magazine, so he knew good quality when he saw it. Along with Miki Ito, RJ DeVera, Mike Riker, and Jun Shi, who happened to own the Mia's Integra. It was not unusual to have 1,500 cars in the car show, and they had a judge in them within 2 days. With the infrastructure in place, it was time to turn this into a professional series. To do this, we needed to approach bigger sponsors. Before I took the helm, they only had local shops setting up tents at their local NYRA events. This was not going to work, so I went after national sponsors.
You know, despite the tremendous success that it enjoyed in the year 2000, it's important to remember that import drag racing is still one of the youngest forms of motorsport. But with the inroads made throughout the past season, one can only wonder how big the 2001 season can become, since this year, Craig Lieberman will be the first to tell you, he made a lot more progress than a lot of people ever dreamed he would.
Yeah, I think definitely the word of the year has been maturity. The maturity of the drag racing segment as a whole, certainly with regards to import. Secondly, of course, has been the maturity of the racers. If you look around here today, most of the preeminent pro import and compact car racers in the country are here today. I think that speaks a lot to the importance of their efforts and what they're trying to accomplish. They've got sponsorship contracts they need to fulfill. They're after the championship fund from CarParts.com. They're ready to come out and step up, make the next level of commitment.
But the sponsor involvement of which you just spoke is probably one of the biggest single surprises of the year. I don't think anybody would have believed at the end of '99 that import drag racing could generate the sponsorships it has.
They wanted something professional. All the sponsors did. They were convinced that if they put it out there, the carrot, which was the big purse fund, the big championship points fund, that the racers would take whatever steps they needed to guarantee success, which means go professional, travel with the series nationally, increase their performance and so forth and so on. They've done that. The sponsorship dollars are there and backing these guys, so now they're getting a little richer for their efforts.
And this is where we had the advantage. Because NYRA was part of the Peterson Publishing Company, who happened to own Super Street Magazine and Max Power USA Magazine, we had a lot of clout in the space. We had built-in magazine coverage. 500,000 eyes were on our magazines every month. Nobody else had that. Battle of the Imports could not match our monthly exposure, and so we basically pushed them aside and left them back. I proposed that we added television. At that time, a 30-minute episode airing on ESPN2 cost to about $25,000. So I talked my bosses into let me putting together sponsor packages to cover the cost. Toyo Tires jumped at it. CarParts.com became our championship sponsor. We had Royal Purple. There's other logos on the back. By the second season, we had like 59 sponsors. So this is how it went. This episode is brought to you by Toyo Tires. Street or track, we've got you covered. And by CarParts.com. Whatever you need for your car, your daily or your race car, go to CarParts.com right now. Bing. And they got it twice in every episode. Each top tier sponsor got a commercial in each episode, plus an interview baked into every episode. Every sponsor got an advertisement in Super Street Magazine and a free booth spot at every of our events, including free parking and free seats and our catered hospitality suites, free. We also encourage our sponsors to participate in a contingency program. It works like this. You buy a part of one of our sponsors at a discount, you install it, and you put the sponsor's decal on your car, and you come in first place or second place, and you have that sticker on the car, you get paid. With a nitrous kit in there and a nitrous sticker on your door, and you win, you get $500. That was unheard of anywhere else. So we took care of the racers as best as we could, and the sponsors were very supportive. Our sponsors liked how we hung their banners, because at other car events back then, the banners were sparse. One over there, one over there, one over there, no. We did it like Formula One. Multiples in a line sometimes. 3 to 5 of the same banner right by the starting line where the cameras are focused at, and they loved it. The cars we rented at the airport were plastered with the decals of our sponsors. And then the payouts were insane. In some of the top street classes, you can win $1,000 for first place. And in the pro classes, we were an ATM in. And these payouts were done in cash at the end of the event, not by a check. That meant that the racers would not be taxed on those winnings at the track. It was up to the racer to clear the winnings on their annual income. Did they? I don't know. I don't care. It's not my business. I'm not an IRS guy. And don't forget, we had a championship payout. In the first year, take a look at these numbers. In pro stock, if you were the champion, first place, you got $15,000. For second place, you get $5,000. Pro 4 was the same, 15 and 5. Pro front wheel drive paid at $20,000 for first and $5,000 for second. Pro Comp paid $20,000 for first and $5,000 for second. And Pro Import paid out $25,000 for first place and $10,000 for second place. Plus, the champion who scored the most total points would be awarded a fully modified Ford Focus estimated retail value of $25,000. Nobody was doing that, man. So we were killing it for a while. We really were. No other import racing series came close to us when it came to television coverage, sponsorships, payouts, perks, ethics, fairness, fun, organization. Everything was going really, really well. Then the .com bubble broke. Carparts.com didn't have the money to pay the championship. Fortunately, Petersen Publishing had a lot of money, being the parent company of NYRA, even though we got sold to EMAP a few minutes later. EMAP paid everybody out, so we didn't look stupid. IDRC had the same problem. They had to take a few months to pay out their winners, but they did. The company that bought us, EMAP, was now realizing that the internet will destroy print magazines. They sold all of their holdings into publishing. Overnight, Petersen magazines were sold to our arch enemies at Prime Media, publisher of Sport Compact Car and Import Tuner, and NYRA went with it. Prime Media did not want NYRA because they were already affiliated with IDRC at that time. So they sold the NYRA to the NHRA for $1. Nobody called me, nobody advised me, nobody said shit. So this infuriated me. 20 minutes after I found out, I called out Mark Myers of Nopi. I told him, I said, I want to get my revenge by gutting NYRA. I called all my racers, all my sponsors, all my regulars, everybody I can tell. Well, we're setting up a new racing series. It's going to be called Nopi Drag Racing Association. And I took with me Universal's sponsorship, which meant $250,000 to the new NDRA racing series and a $50,000 bonus for me. And then I banned every journalist from Prime Media to come to any of our events. But I invited every photographer from all those crazy websites back in the day, Speed Options, Autobuzz, CarBuzz, or whatever. There's about 50 of them at that time. The websites were putting up the pictures of the race before I even got on the airplane to go back home. So what happened? After a few years, it started to slow down. And then drifting started to take off after Tokyo Drift. And then in 2008, the recession hit. And import drag racing was officially dead about that point. Nobody wanted to watch it anymore. TV shows were falling away. That was the end of that. Thanks for watching, guys. Please, 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 I want to remind you to please, please subscribe. I'm getting so close to 250,000 subs. I really would like to hit it by the end of the year. And if we can do it, I would thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye.